Hey, good evening. Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. Tonight I have two candidates running for the Board of Education for Union, New Jersey, Yocasta and Nellis. Good evening, ladies.
Good
Good evening.
evening. Good evening.
Well, I'm glad I finally get a chance to talk to you young ladies. It's definitely long overdue. So how's everything?
We were saving the best for last.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Like they're very optimistic. I'm drinking coffee and water at the same time. But don't pay me no mind. But anyway, so Nellis, I know that you served on the Board of Education for 4 years prior. What was that experience like?
It was different. It was unique, and I felt that my experience actually helped me to understand what really happens in terms of our children and their education, and looking at it from a standpoint of getting what's best done for our children in the community here, even for the mere fact of when you look at pre-K programs. We didn't have a pre-K program here in this district, and I fought for many years. Even being a mom myself and having to pay that hefty daycare fee. And I kept asking at every meeting, hey, let's do something about creating a pre-K program here. We know how important it is, early intervention is for students, all the studies. You look at all the data about early intervention. So just being a board member in the past have, advocated for what is best for students and getting it done. For me, that was one of something that I was really proud of because seeing all these little tiny tots now in pre-K and how excited that they are, and knowing that I played a role in that it brings great pleasure. So I know how the role of a board member is, and I take it very, very seriously. And because at the end of the day, the children matters, and we have to do what's best for them.
Yocasta. So you're throwing your hat in the ring, huh?
Yes. And I would say it was long overdue for me.
How long, Yocasta, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been a resident of Union?
We've been residents, my husband and I, 16 years now. Yes,
So
we,
so you finally said, you know what, I'm gonna run for Board of Education?
yes. With a little bit of encouragement, but yes. And it came about after many years. We were talking about before about what we've seen happening in the township, in our schools, and finally I said I have lots of opinions about lots of things, and I cannot continue to just complain, right? I have to figure out a way of making a positive change in our community, and this is why I finally decided it was time for me to do it.
Great. One of the things that I find interesting is how the board is always shaped, always voted on. I think it was like election every 2 years, every
Three.
year, every 3 years. So it's a constant movement, and nobody probably stays too long.
Right.
So one of the concerns I noticed that on social media definitely is some of the quote unquote infighting. If you two young ladies get elected, how would you try to bridge that gap, like to stop that from happening?
That's for me, that's a really good question, because the more I think about this and the more I watch people on the board and watch these meetings, and that's the interesting one of the interesting things about this whole situation with being in quarantine and COVID, is that more of us actually get to see what is happening, because there's more of an opportunity and things are so public now. What I would do, I'm not coming um, into this election as thinking that I belong in any particular camp, and I think that there's a lot of that in this township and in the board. Things are taken very personal, and there's constant, everything seems to be about the individuals rather than the job that they're there to do. And my hope is that anyone who is on the board, if I am elected, that they are willing to just listen to the ideas, not who's saying it, not who is talking, but the actual idea, the actual goal and the purpose. And let's focus on that and put personal differences aside, because it's not about us. If we decided to take on this position, and run for this, it was because we were thinking about somebody else, right? We want to make a difference. We want to make
Hmm.
some change, positive change, not negative, right? And so it's not about us. It's about our community. It's about our children. So I'm not coming into this thinking about anyone's personality or who they are, or none of those things. I just want the opportunity to work with my colleagues on the board. I want the opportunity to share ideas and to do something concrete for our children. Um, and so that's my intent, and that's my way of managing because I can't look at it in any other way. It cannot be about the individuals. It has to be about the work that we're trying to do.
And if I can just add on a little bit, I think it's about collaboration too. I think as a board member, it's best that, you know what, I may not agree with what everyone is saying at every time. But at the end of the day, when we have a goal in mind, it's about coming together and finding that balance and finding that collaboration that will work and that will work best for the students here. And I think that's the entire agenda is, yes, you don't agree with everyone, and sometimes even at work, there are people that you don't agree with, but that doesn't mean that you don't work with them. We have to come to that common space that we know what the goal is, what's the purpose, what do we want to accomplish, who do we want to accomplish for, and let's get the job done. And that's what it's about for me.
Hopefully, if you guys get elected, right, you will have one of the biggest decisions that the board will have in the next 10 or 15 years. And that'll be electing a new superintendent and his assistant, his or her assistant. Do you realize the responsibility that is?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a big responsibility, and every board member needs to take that responsibility very, very serious because it's going to affect what happens for a district as our district. Making sure that that person, that superintendent, whether it's a he or she, make sure that we know what that person's vision is. What is the vision of what needs to be done within our community? Look at the person's leadership style, knowing if the students are learning. All of those things matter. Listening and communicating, that's a big part we've seen even through this whole pandemic, with being able to watch the board meeting, being able to see how the community is reacting because there is more participation on Zoom. Are we listening? Are we communicating with our stakeholders? For me, those things are important. Is that person, he or she, is that person an outside the box thinker? That matters. And how committed are you to a district as our district? Those are all of those things for me as a board collectively that we have to, if our community gives Yocasta and I an opportunity to be on board members, those are things for me that I would love to collaborate with anyone to make sure that we have the right person, whether it's a he or she, for this to take on this kind of job, because it's important.
Yeah, definitely. I realized what a responsibility that is, and I'm actually excited about the idea of having some input into this. I'm definitely looking. Um, the we are going to work hard to make sure that we get somebody in here that has a vision, that understands our community, that has a proven record of success in other schools, and that understands that the priority is our children. Somebody who can, put the policies in place that have already been decided upon, and they have to be able to do that efficiently, and with compassion, as well as with openness towards the community. So I am excited about the prospect. I think this is going to be good for us, and hopefully I get to have some input in what happens in the future.
One of one of the things that I told you ladies behind the scenes was when I was in union schools, the superintendent was very accessible, and it's changed. A lot has changed. Where the community has always been encouraged to come to the Board of Education meetings. However, if it was a problem within the school and the principal couldn't deal with it, a lot of times the parent, back then, I know a lot has changed, but the parent was able to go to the Board of Education, actually have a meeting, if it was 5, 10 minutes with the superintendent. If you guys, if how would you want your superintendent to be accessible to the community? Because and this is my personal opinion. I know that I can go to the diner and see the present one. I gotta joke. I gotta have some fun. But how would you guys want the superintendent to be? Would you want your superintendent to be accessible to the parents of the district?
Uh,
They have to
of
be.
course,
Go ahead.
absolutely, 100%. He works for the community. He is part of that. He works for the community. You have to take accountability for this community that you're going to serve. Absolutely, 100%. A
And they
hundred
have to get to
percent.
know us. That's the only way to, to get to know your community is by actually being accessible to the families, to the stakeholders, and say, this is who I am. We have to get to know that person too. As a parent, I want to know who is the person responsible for implementing the policies in our schools, what kind of character this is, right? So we want to be able to do that. And any person who goes into that position should be open to this idea of being accessible to the community that they serve.
Yeah, I mean it was
I've worked with many great superintendents, and I've seen the relationship that's been formed with superintendents in the community, and that makes such a big difference. When you could be able to walk into your local store, your local community vendor shop, and you're able to connect with your community. It makes the space, it makes the job that you do so much better, and it makes that collaboration that needs to happen. It just makes it easier for the community and yourself as the building, as the district leader. So it's absolutely 100%, no doubt about that.
Mm.
one of the issues that I had addressed to you young ladies was with the infighting. I had seen it. What would you do if you saw another board member attacking another board member in a public forum? How would you try to resolve that issue? Even if, I mean, I'm quite sure you don't care about who it is, not care about who it is, but how would you just try to resolve and be the peacemaker, so to say?
Well, first of all, I mean, I have to tell you, it's if we have, board members attacking each other on social media, that's just simply inappropriate, right? And it is not something that I would personally engage in. And I hope that my colleagues would not engage in that kind of behavior. But this is why it's important to build good relationships with those that you work with, right? Because we should be able to tap each other on the shoulder and say, you know what, this is not the place, this is not the time. Let's do this, in a private forum rather than publicly. And that's it. That's the end of it. No one should be having arguments on social media with their colleagues that they serve on the same board. It's inappropriate.
Absolutely. I totally agree with Yocasta. And it's just, I think at this point, when we know what kind of district that we serve, and we just have to make sure that, if you disagree with someone, there's always, that's okay. It's okay to disagree with someone, but at the same point, there are ways when you disagree with someone, how I'm not disagreeing with you, Jocasta, and going on social media and saying anything negative about you. Why? Because we're grown folks, we're adults, so we don't play. I'm not playing those games with children, and I'm not playing that game with anyone else. So at the end of the day, I'm not in this for any of that. I'm in this for one and only one reason. I have a stake in the game. All my kids went into the Union Public Schools. Two have graduated from Union Public Schools. I have one left in the system. My friends, my godchildren, who are now in pre-K and kindergarten in the school system. So for me, those things matter, and the agenda is doing what's best for those kids, nothing else.
I mean, I think one of the things that, one of the questions that people need to ask themselves is, how do you want to be viewed? What is the perception that you want the community to have of you and what you're doing? And this kind of behavior, what it does is that it deprives them of the public's confidence, right? So we have no confidence that you can resolve issues in an adult and mature manner because we already see how you're behaving, you know. And so it's about what do we want the community to see in us? You know, what do we want the Board of Education to represent in this community?
And
And the last thing that we want is for anyone to believe that we're not united in our, you know, in our mission to advance our schools. That is what is happening. There is so much division. How am I supposed to trust and believe that you're actually going to do anything towards this common goal of educating my children? That cannot be. And so, you know, it's a, you know, people need to just look within themselves and make a decision as to who do they want to be out there in the world, just like we ask our children to do, right? You know, we ask our kids to think, to play nice with each other, to be kind, to use, you know, good words, and then we throw it all away when we're adults. That cannot be. They're listening to us, they're paying attention
yeah,
to what we're saying.
Jocasta, I think you hit it on the head, you know, when you say our young ones are watching and our teenagers are watching and they're watching us. And I think I'm going to leave that one right there because the kids are watching.
You got that right. One of the issues I know was the busing issue, and I'm not quite sure if that had been finalized yet, but I know it has been a very hot topic. How do you guys? What first of all, what section of Union do you guys live in? If you don't mind me asking, your kids, Nellis, your kids went to what school? What?
My kids went to Livingston.
Okay,
So
Livingston, Kiwami, right?
Yes.
Not Burnett, right?
No, we
let
went
me
to Livingston in Kiwami. Sorry, I didn't hear you. My daughter
let,
just walked in. I apologize.
let me stop starting trouble. Everybody that knows know that it was always a thing, like a cute competition with Kiwami and Burnett. Yocasta, your kids went to what school?
So they went to Kawami, but I am on the Burnett side of town. I am closer to Hannah Caldwell, and closer to Vauxhall. You know, that's where I currently am.
So how do you guys feel about the busing situation? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing, undecided, um, or just haven't given it much thought because you know, or anything?
Can you be a little more clear on the busing situation? Which busing situation are you talking about? Because I know in the past the district had different busing.
Basically, community school. I know that they're trying to get everybody basically to go to the elementary school. I guess that's closer to your
Right.
home. I guess.
So I'll tell you what my opinion is on that, because I know that you know, it's. I had an interesting conversation with a common friend that we have actually, um, and what I am seeing is if this goes through, I believe that union is going to be completely segregated. And that is not the way that we want to go. Um, I think, you know, if this is what we're going to do, we should be providing the resources. And I'm saying this as somebody who, again, look at where I am in town, right? So I'm affected directly by this as well. Um, and I don't know why this was decided, and I think it's still. I'm not sure that I think it's still in the works. It's not 100%. But we can't, if we really want to see segregation in this town, which you know already concerns me. And you were talking about the cute little infight between Kawami and Burnett. Um, you know, we do this, it's going to be even worse than it is now, much worse. Um, so this is not that I'm in favor of seeing happen, for various reasons. I think, you know, we need to make sure that our schools are integrated. And if not, we have to make sure that every citizen of this town is given the resources necessary to build up their schools. And if that is not the plan, then the plan needs to be redrawn. It needs to be thought about again. because we're not, and I know this is, I know there's a lot of rhetoric that gets put out there. And when I tell you that my my highest interest is to make sure that every child gets the same quality education as every other child in this town. It shouldn't be about what side of town you live in. It shouldn't be about your zip code. It needs to be, this is the Township of Union, and you have a choice in your schools, and you get the same level of education no matter where you are, and the same resources, whether it's, for extracurricular activities, to make sure that you are getting the best education possible.
Yeah.
And if we cannot guarantee
Absolutely.
that, then we need to rethink this plan. It doesn't work.
Absolutely. And, the busing situation has been talked about a couple of years ago within our district. And again, I don't believe, or have I heard, that a plan or a final plan has been set in stone or in motion, and especially that we're going through a pandemic. I know that conversation has been brought up to the board many times. But, at the end of the day, it goes back to, even as Jocasta alluded to, in equity. Like I said, I don't care what school my kids go to here in Union. As long as I know, if I walk into one school and I walk into another school, I see learning happening. I see the kids are happy. The kids are safe. They're in a good environment. They're good kids, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. And we have a community that supports our kids. The teachers are supporting our kids. They're supporting their learning. We have a teachers and administration who are supporting their teachers. We have their backs, and we're giving them what they need so we can produce young men and young women who are going to be successful within our community and within the world. For me, that matters.
Yeah. The reason why I asked the community schooling and the busing situation, because I grew up in the Vauxhall section. I actually grew up right around the corner from Jefferson, and on my street, I went to Washington. Guy across the street from me went to Franklin. A couple people down the street to me went to Connecticut Farms. And I think that when that was decided those years ago, I think that those decisions that were made years ago, I don't think they realized the benefit of that decision.
Hmm.
And I just think that when you start community schooling, if you don't understand the history of the town and how even though Union is very diverse and it's getting a lot better, it's a section of town where even the houses are cheaper in certain parts of the town than other parts of the town. So basically, with community schooling, you don't want to exodus from certain schools. Oh, I don't want to teach in this area. I want to go to another area. So this is
But
why I asked the
I just want
question.
to interrupt you for a second, because I think that's a mistake that we all make. Like, oh, I live in this section of town. My school is in this section of town. No, this is all one union. At the end of the day, this is all one union, and we want what's best for the kids here in Union. So I think for me, that's what's important.
So, one of the things that I think about a lot is this whole, you're bringing up diversity, right? So we are indeed a um, a very diverse town. Um, but we're not just racially diverse. There is socioeconomic diversity in this town as well, and we need to think about that when we are planning um, where our kids are going to school. And you're absolutely right. And what Nellis is saying is, it shouldn't matter which school you go to. You should have all the same resources. Now,
That's the
let's
bless
do.
you.
Thank you.
That's
Let's
what Nella said is definitely the vision.
that is the vision. And if
Unfortunately, our reality sometimes.
it's different, and we know this, right? So why would we make a decision that would even further the divide, not just racially but also socioeconomic divide, in our community? We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that that's why I laugh at this competition between Burnett and Kawami, because when I first arrived here, and I kept hearing about this, and people would say it kind of jokingly, and I would be like, huh? But it wasn't a joke. It wasn't really a joke. It was true. The perception that, one school is so much better than the other. And the reality is, again, all schools in Union need to be excellent schools. And that means putting resources into all of those schools that are equitable for everyone involved. And if we're not prepared to do that, then again, these plans need to be redrawn.
Absolutely.
Like I said, when I was in school, I don't think that I went to Kiwami, but I don't think it was more we thought we were better than Burnett. Definitely education wise, I just used to laugh at my friends because they used to have to walk home in the rain. I'm being
That's what you
honest.
think was funny about it.
I'm being honest. But then I got kind of jealous when the weather was hot. We used to have to be on a bus and they would be walking with each
Right.
other. But I don't I hope that it never turned into. I think the competition was kind of more of a cute thing. I don't. That's kind
Mm.
of crazy if they turned it into who was smarter than another or who was getting a better education. So my favorite question. I'm moving. I just moved to Union about 6 months ago.
Yes.
I'm undecided voter. Why should I vote for Yocasta and Nellis?
Do you want to go first, Nellis, or should I take it?
I, for me, again, well, thank you for those community members who already voted for Jocasta
Nell,
and I. We
Nell,
appreciate that. But
Nellis, you got the hardest sell because I just moved and I knew you were on the board before. Okay.
okay, that's fine. There are certain things that matters to me, and there's certain beliefs that I hold hard to, and my beliefs in honesty, my beliefs in trust, and my belief in accountability. And for me, those things has always resonated with me as a young child, as a young adult, and as a mature adult. For me, those things have always mattered, and they're always going to matter to me. And for me, I will tell any voter right now who's undecided, who just moved in here 6 months ago and looking for someone to vote for, that Jocasta and I are the best choices because, for one, we want to make sure that our school district obtain and provide adequate resources, not only for our kids, but for our teachers within our district. Those things matter to us. We've seen how the pandemic has affected a lot of our families here in Union. And we need a lot of work with social emotional aspect for our students and our families, so we need to be able to work together hand in hand with our kids and our families to support that social emotional piece. Also, transparency. We've seen our communities and we've heard the community cry out, especially during this pandemic, for the need for transparency. So for me, those things are what's important to me as a board member. And I think as anyone who's looking for someone to vote for, that's one of the selling points that I have to say, because you want to hold people accountable, and the person needs to be transparent about what's happening and what's going on within the school district. And another big thing I think that we've also talked about in the past, Jocasta and I, is safety. We want to make sure that our kids are safe in school, and we want to make sure that the systems that are in place are set up to keep our children and our educators safe within our buildings. We talked about the lockdown that happened a while ago in our schools and how we heard the children. I mean, they cried out for a community. If you had sat in that high school auditorium, you heard the voices of these young people. And for me, it was a call to say we need to give them that. I need to be a voice for them also. So for me, all of those things matter. I'm an educator. I've been an educator for about 17 years now. I've worked in some of the roughest, the hardest, the bestest district in New York City. And I'm proud of what I do. I'm always going to advocate for kids. I'm always going to be that person on the front line to say, you know what? What's best for kids? What are we doing for them? How are we doing it? How are we going to make it happen? When this person says, no, it's not going to happen, we're going to find a way to make it happen. So for me, those things matter. And I'm looking forward to do this. And I'm looking forward to my community to give me another opportunity to do this. My community said they needed pre-K for our students here. And what happened? We have pre-K for our students here. I'm committed. I'm committed to this, and I'm committed to my community.
Well, that's hard to follow, right? So let me tell you why you that just moved to Union should be voting for me. Um, not only I'm a parent, but I am a parent who is committed to making sure that my kids and your kids get the best education possible. Like Nellis, I am also an educator. The only difference is that I am in higher education. I'm looking at this from a perspective in which I want our children to follow their path. You know, whatever their path may be, to follow that and be true to themselves. And if their path is to go ahead to a university, to college, then I want them to be ready for that. If their path is something else, I want them to be prepared for that as well. And we should be offering that to our kids. We need to be doing a better job of preparing them. You should also vote for me because I am going to fight for you. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I am going to work hard. I have no special interest. My one interest is our community, is our children. That's it. I am not coming at this from, a personal issues with anyone or any specific any special interest. I am just a mom in a town who has been looking at the situation and sees a need for better people on the board, the right people on the board to make the right decisions for the kids and to fight for the kids, and to listen to our community. We're not being heard, right? We're not being heard. We know this. We talk in circles. We find ourselves being left out of the conversations, left out of the rooms, and the decision making process. It's too obscure, all of it, and it's enough of that. We're a community, and if you cannot engage us as a community, then you're not serving us. You cannot serve that which you do not know.
Absolutely.
And it is time for it to change. And so here I am. I am going to roll up my sleeves, do the work. It doesn't matter who it is. I am looking for the ideas, right? That's what I'm looking for. What are we doing? I am not looking at the people in the room. I am looking at what is being said and how that benefits our kids. If we can get there, we can do so much better. I promise you.
And Yocasta, just to add the last thing, we're two moms on a mission.
Yes,
We're two
we
moms
are.
on a mission.
We are definitely two moms.
We are two moms on a mission.
Well, there you have it, folks. Yocasta and Nellis. I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight, and I know it's kind of late.
Okay.
Some of us are a little older, and we get up a little earlier and go to bed a little earlier. But I really appreciate you guys. I don't believe in luck, and I'll just say that if it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. Um, like I said, I wanted to really interview you guys because I love that town, and you know how that town is in. Once you get a whiff of that air, it's like no place on the face of the earth. So I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for having us.
I mean, I know what you mean. We have a beautiful community. We have, as I said, in the years that we've been here, we've put in some really deep roots into this town. And I don't know where we would be with our community, without our friends and that have become family in this township. And this is why this is important to us. We want this town to thrive and to do better. We can't do that. We cannot move forward if we don't put the right people in the right place.
with that, we're gonna close our chat with Nellis and Yocasta. And folks, remember to get those ballots in and vote.
Yes.
And speaking, I can't speak for these two young ladies. Is that it takes a community to make the community is always going to be as great as the community wants it to be. So with that, we're gonna close out the chat. And everybody have a blessed night and take care.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Take care.